Hi Summit, welcome back to my channel. Today's tutorial I'm going to be showing us how to draft and sew a 360-degree peplum blouse with pleats and also a puff sleeve. So let's get started with the tutorial for today. So these are the measurements I'll be using for today's tutorial, and the first measurement I'll be marking out is our chest line measurement of 7 inches, our apex of 8.5 inches, our length to under bust of 11.5 inches, and our blouse half length of 14.5 inches. So I'm going to be marking this on the other side and get a straight line. Then I'll be labeling each of the lines: our chest line, our apex, our length under bust, and half length. So that's it. Next I'll be marking out our nipple to nipple measurement, which is 3.5. I'm going to mark that all the way to our shoulder, then draw a straight line. So this is our nipple to nipple measurement. Then I'm going to get our dart intake of 1 inch on both sides of this nipple to nipple line, and I'll be starting that from the half length all the way to the length to under bust. That is where our dart legs of 1 inch is going to be. Then I'll be connecting that dart leg to the nipple points on the apex line, like so. Then on that apex line, I'll be going up with half inch. I'll go up with half inch, then come to our shoulder line here and go out with 1 inch on both sides of our nipple to nipple line. Then I'll connect those points I marked to the half inch I went up with on the apex line. So this is it. What I'll be marking next now is our shoulder measurement divided by 2. I'll mark it. I'll also mark the same thing on our chest line. I'll connect the 2 points together. Then I'm going to mark our busts divided by 4. I'll mark it, and our waists or our round body divided by 4. I'll mark what I have, then measure what I have for my dart, which is 2 inches. I'll be replacing that after my waist measurement. I'm also going to be replacing the darts on that chest line so we don't have any shortage on our pattern. Now I'm coming down by 1 inch for our shoulder slope. Then I'll divide what I have left by 2 and go in by half inch from that midpoint. Then I'll connect all the points using this part of my pattern curve. And this is it. Now I'm going to get our neck line, our neck width of 3 inches. I'll mark it out and draw out our shoulder slope. I'll make sure our shoulder slope passes through the 1 inch and I'll extend it out. So now I'm going to be replacing my shoulder, my dart here, and I'll mark different points on this pattern. I'll mark exactly the same point on my shoulder line there. Then measure what I have at each point and replace it on the curve. So I'll measure what I have here, replace the same measurements starting from the curve. Measure what I have there, replace it starting from the curve. So we're going to join all those dots together. So now we will not be having any shortage on the upper part of our blouse anymore because we've replaced the dart. So we'll be cutting off that other dart, and I'll show us how to go about that with time. Now I'm marking my bust dart and I'm using half inch on both sides. So I'll be connecting it back to my apex, my nipple to nipple line on my apex. So this is it. Now I'll be marking my neck depth of 6 inches on the center front, and on this side I'll be marking out 5 inches. Then I'll connect using my curve. I'll connect those 2 points together. So I want to have like a small sweetheart neckline here. Then I'm going to be marking my bust tightening of 1/2 inch on both sides of this dart line. So I'll mark 1/2 inch from the dart. I'll connect it back to our nipple point on the apex line. Now I'm going to be measuring the dart leg. So we're going to replace if there's any shortage. I'll measure it to that nipple point and continue. So you can see we have a little bit of shortage. So I'm going to extend it out, then reconnect it back to our center front neck depth. Yes. So this is it. Now I'll be drawing a straight line from that point all the way to our shoulder tip, the tip of the dart on our shoulder. And this is it. From the bust tightening on this side, I'll be going out with 1 inch. Then I'll be connecting it back to our 3 inches neck width that I marked. So this is going to be like our extension, our sleeve extension. And that's it for our front pattern. So for our back pattern, I'll be coming down with 1 inch. So the back is short with 1 inch than the front. So that's why I'm coming down by 1 inch. Then I'm going to get a straight line which I'll be using for my center back. Okay, so this is our straight line. Next, I'll be marking our chest line measurement of 7 inches. Then our half length of 13.5 inches. So the half length for our front was 14.5 and the back is 13.5. So I'll draw a straight line now. Now I'm marking our shoulder measurement divided by 2. I'll also mark it on our chest line. I'll connect it together. Then mark our bust measurement divided by 4. Then from the waistline, I'm going to first be doing my zipper tightening of 1/2 inch. This is so our zipper does not bulge at the back. Then I'm going to put my waist measurement starting from that 1/2 inch. I'll put my waist measurement divided by 4 plus 1 inch for that on the waistline. Then I'll connect it to our bust measurement. The next thing I'll be doing now is to get our neck width of 3 inches. From that point, I'll go up with 1 inch. Then connect that 1 inch point back to our shoulder line. And this is it. Then I'll divide what I have on this point divided by 2. I'll be connecting that midpoint to our bust point on our chest line. On the waistline now, I'll be marking 3.5 inches from the center back. I'll take it all the way up and go up with 5 inches. So our dart length is 5 inches. Then on that point on our waist, I'm going to be going out with 1/2 inch on both sides. And I'll be connecting those points to the 5 inch length I marked up. So this is our dart for the back. I'm going to be marking our back neck depth. I'll be coming down with 1/2 inch from our shoulder line and connect it to that 1 inch up above our shoulder line. And this is it for our pattern. This is our front pattern, our back pattern, and now I'm going to be cutting. So please take note of how I'm going to be cutting out this pattern. There's the center front. I'll be closing up my bust darts. This is our side, then this is our extension. I'll just label the up, the down. Then this part will be cutting out that 0.5 inches. And this is it. I'll be working with 2 yards of African print fabric and 2 yards of our lining fabric. So to cut my 360-degree peplum, I'll first fold my fabric into 2. Then I'll fold it into 2 again, making it 4, making the folding into 4. So my waist measurement is 28 inches plus 2 inches for our zipper allowance, making it 30 inches. I'll be dividing that 30 inches now into 4 to give us 7.5. So I'm going to place my tape round this curve to get 7.5, like so. Well, I mentioned earlier that our peplum is going to be having pleats, so I'm not going to be working with that 7.5. I made it 11.5. So I'll measure that 11.5, and when I measure from the top to that point that gave me 11.5, I'm having 7. So I'll mark 7 inches like so all the way. I'll join all the points. So if I measure it, I'm having 11.5. So 11.5 times 4 gives me 46. So 46, you will not pleat very well. So I wanted to increase it. So I measured 8. So from the top now, I came down with 8 inches, and you can see how I'm marking it. So after marking our 8, I measured all I have, and it gave me 13 inches. So I have 13 inches here. So 13 inches times 4 gives me 52. That makes the whole of the waistline on this peplum to be 52. So our pleats are going to be very bold and visible. So the length of my peplum is 8 inches plus 1 inch for sewing allowance. That makes it 9 inches. So by the time I join all the points together, this is our peplum here. I'm going to be cutting out. So our waist is very excess, so our pleating can be very bold and deep. So I've already gone ahead to cut out all the upper part of my pieces, and I added my seam allowance of 1/2 inch all round, except the center back for our zipper, which I added 1.25 seam allowance, and our side, which I added 1 inch seam allowance. So I'm cutting out our wording now. For the center piece, I'll cut out our wording. Then I'll make sure the shiny part is facing the down of the fabric. I'm going to sew it down by the side using 0.25. Then I'll cut for the side also. After which, the shining side should face the fabric. Then I'm going to sew it down with 0.25 inches. I'm going to be joining our lining piece now together using 1/2 inch, like so. Then for the back, I'm going to be sewing our back darts. I'll fold it like so and sew it with 5.5 inches. Because that's the length of our darts. I'll do the same thing for our lining piece. I already notched where our darts will be starting. So for the sleeve extension, I'll be closing up the sides with 1/2 inch, making sure the right sides face each other. And I've gone ahead to fold my lining piece the same way I folded the main piece. I'll cut my peplum the same way. So I'm going to be cutting open the 2 closed sides. So I cut open the first side, I'll cut open the second side also. After which, I'll open up my peplum and mark the back. So I'm going to keep one side now, that's going to be our front. Then for the back, because of the opening at the zipper side, we'll need to also cut the back open again. So I'm going to do the same thing for our lining. I'll cut open the 2 closed sides, then open it up. I'll mark the back, keep one side for the front, then divide the second piece into 2 again for the left back and the side back. So now I'm going to be getting the midpoint of this main fabric here, and I also get the midpoint of the lining piece. So this is going to be for our front peplum. I'm going to pin the two midpoints together, then pin like so, and I'm going to sew 1/2 inch all the way using my hemming gum. I'll do the same for the two back pieces. I'll get the midpoint of the main fabric, I'll get the midpoint of the lining piece. I'll place the two midpoints together, making sure the right side of the fabric faces the right side of the lining. I'll pin together, then sew all the way using 1/2 inch seam allowance. And I'll also use my hemming gum, so when we iron it out, it lays out very nice. I'm going to be doing this for the other back pattern, the other back piece also. And this is what we have for our front peplum. And I also used my hemming gum, so I'm going to be notching the curve. I will notch the curve all the way, and be careful not to cut your thread, so that by the time the purpose of this notch is by the time we turn it out, it will come out very nice. So this is the front. I'm going to iron it out. Then for our upper parts, I have sewn our wording on it now. I'm going to be joining all the sides together using 1/2 inch. I've also sewn our back darts. Now I'm going to be turning it with our lining. And to do that, I'll first turn the neckline with 1/2 inch, then sew our zipper side with 0.25, and I'm making sure the front of my fabric faces the front of my lining. I've gone ahead to sew our extension. Then this is what I have. So I've ironed my peplum now. I'll just be trimming out the excess lining that's there. Anywhere there's excess lining, you can trim. That's after ironing. So we need to iron first. I'll do the same for the two back pieces. I'll trim out the excess. So I've done this for I've joined our front, the upper part of our front. The next is to add our extension. So from where that joining is, I'll be marking 1 inch from after that line here, so it's not very visible. Then I'm going to place our extension. I'll pin it down. I'll also mark 1 inch after the joining there. That's where our sleeve extension is going to be starting from. I'll sew it down. Then I'll be turning this with our lining, making sure the front of our African print faces the front of the lining. I'll pin the midpoints together, then sew all the way, making sure I also use my hemming gum. So I've sewn the back piece now. What I'll do next is to sew the lining and the African prints in place so that they don't move when we're shaping. Then I'll be closing up our zip allowance of 1 inch. So for our peplum now, to join all our peplum together, I'm going to be opening up one side of the front. I'll be opening up the sides of the front and the sides of the back, like so. Then place the midpoints together. I'll pin it. I'll pin the African prints to each other, then pin the lining to each other, then sew 1/2 inch. I'll sew 1/2 inch from the lining, from the African print straight all the way to the lining, then turn it to the right side. So we're going to be having something like this. I'll do it for the other side also. I'll open it up, make sure the two midpoints are touching. I'll pin the two midpoints together, I'll pin the African prints together, then pin the lining together, then sew 1/2 inch, starting from the African print all the way to the lining, straight line using 1/2 inch. So this is what we are having. Then after sewing that, I will sew the lining and the African print fabric together at the top. So we don't want it to be separate again, we sew it at the top. And I've done that here. This is what we are having. Now I'm going to get the midpoint of this front fabric. I'll notch it. I'll use my chalk to highlight it so we can see. Then I'll measure what I have for my front, from the side, from one side to the other side. So I'll measure all I have for my front waist, which is 25 inches. So that means the midpoint there is 12.5. So I'm going to be making pleats now, and I'll make sure that after pleating on one side, the pleat gives me 7 inches on the right side of the front, and on the left side of the front also I'll make sure the 12.5 after pleating it becomes 7. So our waist is 28. So 28 now divided by 2, that means we're having 14 for just the front. But what we're having on the peplum here for just the front is 25. So it means we have to pleat our 25 inches on the peplum till it becomes 14 inches. So we're going to pleat the excess of 25 inches till it becomes 14 inches. So that is what I'm trying to do here. And I'll also make sure the pleat I have on one side is equal to the pleat I have on the other side. So I'm going to measure it now to this midpoint, and I have my 7 inches. I'll measure it all the way to the other side, and I have 14 inches. Now for the back, I'm going to firstly be marking our 1 inch for zipper allowance. I'll mark our 1 inch for zipper allowance first, after which I'm going to pleat what is left from after the zipper allowance to the side. I'll make sure I pleat it back to 7 inches. So whatever I have there now, I'm going to make sure it is 7 inches when I'm done pleating, and I'm going to do the same for the other side. I'll mark out our zipper allowance of 1 inch, then pleat the other side till it's 7 inches. So when I measure what I have here, I'm having 7 inches plus 1 inch for zip, that's 8 inches. So what I have all the way on this peplum waist now is 30 inches. So I've closed the zipper allowance of my back pattern, and I've joined the neckline, the lining to my blouse. I'll just be sewing the lining in place on the side and the lower part, so the lining does not move again when we want to shape. After doing that, I'll be placing the front part now on the back part, then closing the side using 1 inch. I'll be shaping with 1 inch because that was what we added to our pattern. Now to join the two shoulders together, the front and back shoulder, I'll be opening it up like so and joining the two midpoints together. I'll pin. Then I'm going to be pinning the fabric, the main fabric to the main fabric, and the lining to the lining. I'll pin also. Then I'm going to sew with 1/2 inch. And this is what we are having. I've done that for the two sleeves, and this is it. So I'll turn it out now. This is how our upper part looks like, very neat and very beautiful. So the next thing to do now is to attach our peplum to this upper part. So I'm going to first of all lose our zipper allowance. So after doing that now, I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to be highlighting the midpoint of the center front. So the midpoint of our blouse at the center front is going to be meeting the midpoint of our peplum where we chalked. So we're going to, and you can see that the waist of our peplum is equal to the waist of our upper blouse. So I'm going to turn it this way, then place the midpoints together. I'll place the two midpoints together, I'll pin it. Then I'm going to sew it, join both of them using 1/2 inch. After which I'll be fixing my zipper to this blouse. And this is what we have. You can see that our pleats are equal and look alike. So now for our sleeve, I'll fold our fabric into 2, then fold it into 2 again, so that we can cut for the 2 sleeves at once. So this is going to be my starting line. Then the length of my sleeve is going to be 14 inches plus 1.5 inch for seam allowance, which will make it 15.5 inches. Then the width of our sleeve is going to be 11 inches. Then I'm going to draw out our armhole curve. So this armhole curve is going to be wider than our armhole there, but after sewing the excess, we're going to be pleating it at the shoulder tip. We're pleating the excess of our sleeve on the shoulder tip, because this is a puff sleeve. So I'm going to be notching our center points. After that, I'll cut exactly the same thing for our lining. But at the bottom of our lining now, I'll be marking out 1 inch and I'll cut it off. Then I'm going to make a notch at that point. I'm also going to be marking the back of our lining. Now I'm going to open up our main fabric, and the front of our main fabric will face the front of our lining. We'll pin the 2 notched parts together and sew all the way with 1/2 inch. Then we'll turn it over like so and sew on this part so that the lining stays in place. This is what we are having here. Now on the lower part also, I'll be sewing 0.5 all the way. This 0.5 is where our elastic band is going to be passing through, our 1/2 inch elastic. So we created a hole for it to pass through, and I cut out an elastic band of 9 inches, so we'll be passing it through that point, after which we'll be closing up the side of our sleeve with 1/2 inch. Then we'll be fixing the sleeve to our blouse, and the excess of the sleeve will be pleated at the top of the blouse. And this is what we have after doing that. Our blouse came out so well. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in my next video. Bye for now.